I would like to introduce today's resource person, even though there is no need of much introduction about him, because he is a well-known person. Yes, we have Dr. S.T. Ramesh sir for today's live session. He is a professor of civil engineering in National Institute of Technology, Tiruchirappalli. He did his doctorate in IIT Madras in the year of 2006, and his area of interest is water and air quality modeling and environmental impact assessment, also risk assessment. He has received many awards and published plenty of quality journals, and also taking part in many academic and administrative responsibilities, and so many. So we are really happy to have such a wonderful person for this live seminar. Also, it is my immense pleasure to welcome Dr. S.T. Ramesh to deliver an interesting topic on this live session. I hope all of you will enjoy this live seminar. Thank you very much. Sir, please.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the nice introduction. Let me share, and somebody can react with me. I think Madam is here, or others. Let me share my presentation.
Samuel?
One second, ma'am. 1 second.
Dear participants, you mute your...
Is it possible to view, ma'am?
Yes, sir, we can view.
Yeah, can I? Yeah, this is now it is moving.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, good morning to all of you, and thank you for this live interactive session with the disinfection technology of hospital waste and wastewater, and suggestions for disinfection strategy during COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, so this thank you so much for this opportunity. I really thank the principal and Dr. Kannan and Dr. Angelina for having me here to share some of my thoughts. Right now, I am in the National Policy Committee in Unnat Bharat Abhiyan to look into like disinfection strategies for hospital wastewater. So that whatever we have discussed so far and what it is going to come, that probably I will share with you. And at the end of the lecture, you could be able to communicate or you could be able to interact with me, thereby I can give some sort of suggestions or what. My today's topic is on disinfection strategy of hospital waste and wastewater.
Hello.
Suggestions for disinfection during the COVID-19 pandemic. So this is very wide topic, but this topic like this is very easy, but in the real implementation into the field is very, very tough task. How to take care of these situations in hospital, quarantine facilities, and the treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant. Yeah. Let me have some introduction, and probably might be you are familiar, but how serious and how intense it was, and it is. So that probably you can have a look on this. And late December 2019, in a hospital in Wuhan, China, and people have noticed unusual pneumonia was noticed with a link to an animal market that probably would have come across, sells poultry, fish, and other animals to public. And immediately the event was soon reported to WHO. And on 11th February 2020, the International Committee of Taxonomy of Virus announced severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus, that is SARS coronavirus 2, and as the name of the new virus. So SARS is that you would have familiar, and the severe acute respiratory syndrome, and COVID is the name of that particular virus, and this is 2019. COVID 2019 you would have familiar with. And immediately they are gone with PCR, that is genome sequencing and reverse transcription polymerase chain reactions to test the virus. And immediately WHO, World Health Organization, started to quicken the diagnostics of that particular virus, and the therapeutics, that is the medicinal activities, and vaccine development. And a candidate vaccine was prepared for initial laboratory testing. So in March or April, so immediately they started the R&D activities for these coronavirus prevention. And why it is being called as this coronavirus, probably you would have come across. This is coronavirus are a single stranded RNA virus. So most of the viruses are in RNA that you would have come across. This is a protein structure, RNA virus that can infect not only human, but a huge variety of animals as well. And it is not new, but in 1966 itself, and this Tyrrell and Bino in 1966, they have cultured this like the virus from the patients with a common cold. And due to their spherical, you would have seen some photographs of the coronavirus also, spherical in nature, spherical virion morphology, along with the shell and surface projections like a solar corona. And these viruses are called coronavirus. Let me show some of photographs later. So just you now remember 2019 December, they identified immediately WHO, they are targeted on these developments with R&D facilities. 2020 February, they have named us as coronavirus because of this certain morphological nature. Okay, these are single stranded RNA virus, and they infect both human as well as the animal. And interestingly, this on spherical morphology along with the shell, and also surface projections like a solar corona. So that's why it is being called as this coronavirus. You can call it as or SARS-CoV-2. So these are some of the names you would have come across in text, like newspapers and also television news. And in Latin, corona means is a crown. Corona means is crown, and there are different type of subfamilies. Okay, that is alpha, beta, gamma, and delta coronavirus that is identified so far. So 4 different subfamilies comes under this corona family: alpha, beta, gamma, and delta. And these alpha and beta coronavirus have been originated from mammalians, particularly from bat. And gamma and delta coronavirus is originated from pigs and birds. So that's what people have told right now, that to be cautious with animals as well. Bat and other mammalians, and especially with pigs and also birds. So alpha, beta, gamma, and delta, these are the 4 subfamilies comes under corona, like the virus, the coronavirus family. And now you could be able to see in this picture that this is that whatever I have discussed in the last slide: alpha coronavirus and beta coronavirus, gamma coronavirus, and delta coronavirus. So these 2, whatever we are writing right now, is the infections with alpha as well as beta, and gamma and delta it is not it. So these are the 2 subfamilies: alpha coronavirus and beta coronavirus is being given a lot of the infections in throughout the world that you would have come across. Yeah, and the morphology, because people are scientists are finding very difficult in the identification and target of this virus because of morphological structure. That's what people used to say: morphology, structure, and what are the different possible transmission routes of this severe acute respiratory syndrome, that is COVID 2019. So these morphology and structures of this COVID-19 has important implications in water as well as wastewater services. Even in the human, it is also people have targeted, and it is somewhat difficult to find out the solutions. That's what people used to say. It is also changes the dimensions, and morphology also keep on changing it. And as I mentioned already, SARS-CoV-19 virion, that is virus, is a small spherical particle. Size, if you see, 100 nanometer diameter, and based on that, and the doctors have suggested your mask that you would have come across, 100 nanometer, you have to be very cautious, 100 nanometer diameter, and consisting of a positive sense single stranded RNA genome within a fragile lipid envelope. That's what I told you, that this is all these viruses are in protein, like a thick protein, and has a positive sense single stranded RNA genome, and which is also within the fragile lipid envelope. Okay. And this comes under beta coronavirus that I already mentioned to you, beta coronavirus. And sometimes it is also be referred as this type of flu. People used to say, or doctors, they may advise you on, it is something like a flu, but if you typically look into, and it may create a lot of distress. That's what doctors used to say. It will create a lot of distress on the human being, like influenza. And because of these negative sense of RNA virus. So please be familiar on the size. Spherical in shape or morphology, and the diameter of the SARS-CoV-2 2019 virus is less than 100 nanometer diameter. So 100 into 10 power minus 9 meter. That is the diameter, and predominantly is on like a protein, consisting of a positive sense single stranded RNA genome within a fragile lipid envelope. So that we just have a look on. And this virus also have a spike proteins. That is also another important fact. Spike protein on its surface that bind to host cell protein and subsequently aid viral entity. Because of its throughout the morphology, and these viruses have a spike proteins. So which will attach onto a host of your protein. It will spread out very, very faster. That's what people used to say. The multiplication time, once it is getting infected, it may go very, very faster. That's what people used to say on. Okay? So because of these conditions, okay? Spike proteins on its surface that bind to the host cell protein and subsequently aid viral entry. And due to delicate nature of this lipid envelope on the SARS-CoV-2, and the viral particle may become non-viable, that is non-infective, once the envelope is damaged, even though their genetic fragments are still be detected. That's all we used to say. If you could able to damage, say example, the envelope, and probably that viruses cannot survive further. And even though, and that's what people used to say, if you go for a doctor with the infections, they may say positive or they may have a negative. So that's what they say. And if you could able to damage the envelope of the particular virus, and probably you can kill all your the infections. That's what now people are working on in the medicinal aspects as well. Yeah. So this is the typical COVID-19. Why it is serious, and what are the different importance of this virus that we could understand better right now. That's what I told you. Like this is like something like a spherical, and it may have spikes throughout the entire spherical shape. That's what I told you. Spike glycoprotein, and membrane also with membrane protein and nucleoprotein and genomic RNA, and also it contains a small membrane protein. So everything is in-house inside, and probably you could able to see right now. These are some of the images of that COVID-19 is being traced. You could able to see the same resemblance in the right hand figure also. We could able to see here. Okay, so we have the protein and surrounded by a number of spikes. So these spikes may attach to a protein of, say example, your host body, and it will multiply very, very faster. So this is the status it is been given importance. And people are now saying also, like the morphology also is keep on changing. Thereby it could somewhat difficult to target the particular virus spread. That's what now the medical field and also other doctors used to say. Okay? Yeah. So this is you could understand right now. Like one is about the protein, and this contains a lot of spikes. Okay, spikes may attach, say example, on your host protein. It will multiply very faster, and you could also see like the actual microscopic photographs of COVID-19. Yeah. Let me give some importance is why it is important, how it is spreading. Okay, so this I don't know how many of you visited like WHO, and probably I'll advise to visit WHO status, and probably it may give a lot of good ideas on like data analytics and how it is being plotted, how it is on a dynamic system. So when students can learn the data management aspect. Okay, this I have taken yesterday night, I guess. Around the 10 o'clock in the morning, because I've taken in the evening, but that means is because WHO, and you could able to see right now is how much is the total infections, around 61 lakhs. It might be around 62 lakhs right now, and these are the total number of death. That's what it is been given in WHO. So you could, these are some of the areas where you have a lot of kind of cases. These I have taken in WHO site yesterday night. So around 61 lakhs and 3.73 lakhs death total all over the world. So it is not a simple infection. It is very fast in this. I mean, migration is also very faster, and spreading over is also faster. And you should have a concern with these sort of viruses. And I could able to see from WHO also, and different developing nations and developed nations, and how the movement of how the spreading over of this virus also it is been plotted. Okay, so it is been mentioned like America, Europe, and Eastern countries, and Southeast Asia, and Western Pacific, and also Africa. And you could able to see right now we are in 2.72 lakhs in Indian, South Asian, Southeast Asia. Altogether is about 2.72 lakhs positive patients. And you could also see like in WHO site, all are dynamic because this data is completely being updated as very instantly. And once you click on that data, and you may get a lot of interesting features. So I request all of you at least visit WHO dashboard. Probably you can get to know some sort of latest developments in data analytics. And this is with respect to Indian status. Like COVID-19 Indian status, that 1.9 lakhs total infected patients, and the death also you would have come across. So the total death in Indian status, 5,394. It was this yesterday. So these are the spreads. And Government of India, they also given a lot of different zones you would have come across: red zone, orange zone, or yellow zone, and the green zone also. And now they are concentrating more on red spots or hot spots, how to minimize the spread over, and how to contain the particular area to prevent the spreading of this coronavirus disease. Yeah? So these are some of the inputs. And right now the detection is very, very tough. That's what you would have come across. And very easy method or defined method to identify these viruses, RT-PCR. So you would have heard about like these terms in televisions and newspapers. PCR technology. PCR is real time. So they do online. That is hotspot. Real time polymerase chain reaction technology. PCR is meant for polymerase chain reaction technology, and they do RT-PCR assay. RT-PCR assay. Can also modified and adopted to detect the quantity of virus in normal samples such as wastewater. Anyway, I'll come back later. And right now, to detect the virus from any blood or your swab, they do RT-PCR technology. That is real-time polymerase chain reactor and chain reaction. Now, for other segments also, that two vulnerable areas, like for like the spreading of these virus could be like water as well as wastewater, and people are also finding now the detection technologies for like this virus in water as well as wastewater. So RT-PCR, you have to remember RT-PCR. It's very simple. This COVID testing, anyway, I'm not going to detail in enough, but we have a lot of documents in the online sources. So they do in two different ways of testing. So you would have come across, one is about swab, second is about detecting this blood samples. Okay, and if you do a systematic way of swab sampling, they'll take out the swab and they'll extract RNA. That's the first feature they do it. Extract RNA from the specimen and convert to DNA. So RNA to DNA conversion, and amplify by this technology, PCR technology, with the COVID-19 with the specific primers, and with these comparison of these primers, and they'll also go for interpretation of results. If it is anything on presence, it may give some sort of a color, and if it is anything on other negative, and you could also identify based on these sort of PCR analysis. This is with respect to your swab analysis. And if you take out the sample, say example like the blood sample, and they also do these sort of exposures. Okay, patient sample with SARS-CoV antibiotics, and they'll prepare antigen, and they'll also do with the antigen test line and control test line, and they'll also say like positive or negative. So these are the two technologies. In Tamil Nadu, they do most of the samples with swab. That is very easy. Okay, detecting is very easy, but you can also do it in a very, very faster sense also. So swab is one option where you can identify this virus. Another is about blood tests. Yeah, yes, yeah. So this what I told you. You have a three-step process for identifying COVID-19 infection. Number one, you obtain a sample, either swab or blood. That is number one. And second one is about you just extract RNA from the soil sample or the blood sample and centrifuge it, and you just convert this RNA into a like DNA and do real-time polymerase chain reaction, and you may get a result and compare. Thereby, you could able to say like positive and negative. That's what now daily evening that you would have come across in the newspapers or sometimes in the media. You may get number of patients is being tested, number of samples is being collected, and out of that, how many number of samples with positive. So this is one active methodology where you can identify these COVID-19 in a faster sense. COVID-19 cells you can remember simply as real-time PCR test, real-time polymerase chain reaction test. Okay, that is something is important. Yeah. And another interesting feature here is lifespan. That's what people used to say. Lifespan of this severe acute respiratory syndrome, COVID-19 in the environment. And the aerosol, that is about 3 hours. That's what nowadays is people used to ask. Just go outside. If you go outside, you just wear mask. Thereby you could avoid these infections. Okay. In the copper vessel and also cardboard, and it may prolong minimum 4 hours to 24 hours lively. And stainless steel, it is about 3 days. Plastics about 3 days, and sewage is 3 days, and fecal matter is 3 days. Okay. These two things is something is given lot of alert on. Like the environmental engineering sense of scientists. Okay, sewage, because you have a lot of infected patients in the hospital, and you have a lot of people in quarantine facilities, and how to manage the wastewater. That's number one, because the lifetime of that coronavirus in the sewage is almost 3 days. 3 days, whether it is active or not doesn't matter, but the lifetime is about 3 days, and in the fecal matter, solid fecal matter, it is about 3 to 4 days. So these are the two immediate tasks, and right now it is people are working elaborately and how to identify these coronavirus in these virus traces or RNA traces in wastewater as well as the fecal matter, because the lifetime is, say example, 3 to 4 days. 3 to 4 days. Okay, yeah. And to prevent the corona infection and prevention, and it has been given complete like informations on how to take care of yourself. Okay, probably would have come across different posters and different media publicity. Okay, then that's what you just it has been given importance on. Wash your hands very frequently. Get rid of this virus. That is number one. Or you can kill the the viruses if you could able to damage by these antiseptic medicines, and probably well and good. That's what they used to say. 20 seconds you have to wash your hands very thoroughly, and keep distancing to avoid your aerosol infections. Almost it has been given importance on 1 meter distance. That is your social distancing. And wherever you go out, you wear a face mask, and stay home. That is during the period of if you have any illness or what, and you can use a tissue paper or handkerchief when you are cough or sneeze, and you should avoid touching eyes as well as nose, okay, with your dirty hands, and avoid mass events. So these are some of the precautions is being given. Is enough information to given to publics to practice these sort of activities. Nowadays, we could understand, also feel better. It is been well taken by the publics. Okay, people have started washing their hands and started advising on keep distance and wearing mask, and people have avoided touching eyes and also nose, and completely the mass events is completely been avoided. So thereby you could able to arrest or prevent the community wider spreading of these diseases. That's a government is now working and also struggling a lot to prevent or contain these sort of the infections in a local level, not in a social level. Okay, yeah, these are the precautions. Okay, yeah. And now because of these the prevention strategies, it probably would have come across. This is because it is mentioned you can wash your hands, and you can use a mask, and you can also use a tissue paper or cloth. Okay, these are the three different, because of these systematic practice and also prevention procedures, and there's a huge amount of trash probably would have come across. Okay, amount of trash created is going to be a very, very substantial amount. That's what now it has been predicted. Because of this COVID-19 outbreak, the general public have started wearing surgical masks in order to take precautionary measures. Okay, And when people suddenly start wearing one or two masks daily, and people also started using on single-use blouses and hand sanitizers, the amount of trash is going to be a substantial. That's what it is. The prediction says very huge amount of trash also will come along with your regular stream of solid waste, either together or separately. So that the another the task with urban local bodies is to take care of these aspects. Okay, these aspects. If it is non-infectious, it's no problem. If it is infectious, or if it is comes from a hospital, or if it is coming from a quarantine facility, then you have to make it very, very serious. The strategies to dispose these out of trashes, especially mask and gloves and other PPE equipments that I'll come back later. Okay, yeah. So because of this situation now, COVID, and there could be infections with the coast, and because of this, and people have started giving on a lot of important preventive measures like a mask, glove, and hand sanitizers, and thereby you could have a lot of there could be a lot of trash generation, medical waste generated during this COVID-19 pandemic into the environment. Okay, this we cannot leave it as such, but it create a lot of the infections if it is being from medical facilities or from a quarantine facilities or from infected patients. So that now people are working very elaborate strategies to how to minimize or how to take care of these situations. Probably I'll be highlighting in that. Okay, yeah. So the medical waste in the environment, because it's now you could identify what is solid waste and what is medical waste right now. Okay, solid waste is very easy. You identify generation area and go for a proper collection and go for a proper handling of the particular solid waste and have it off in a like transfer station, or you just dispose into a open dumping site or landfill. So you may not have any problem. But here is all infectious material, and there could be a lot of health risk. That's something is important. Higher health risk from contact. That's what people used to say. The primary contact and also secondary contact to medical waste as well, including the cleaners, trash collectors, and some other people who have to spend a great amount of time in the public areas. That's what now it is being given importance on. Probably would have come across the doctors, those who are associated, nurses, those who are associated, and ambulance driver, those who are associated, any medical facilities associated people, or anything on waste management system associated people. Like they may have a lot of great risk of these infections, Yeah. And another thing is about these masks. That's what I told you. The masks are made up of plastic-based material, and that are liquid resistant and are long lasting after they are discarded and ending up in ocean as well as landfill. So these are primarily plastic or plastic-based material, and liquid resistant also, and it may not be possible to go for like a faster degradation or faster decomposition, and finally it may end up in landfill. So that's what now the prediction. So you may get a lot of trashes into a landfill also. And the surgical mask should not be worn longer than 1 day, discarding them, and you have also empty bottles of hand sanitizers along with the solid tissue paper are ending up to a huge trail of medical waste in the environment. So this is what is very like the concern with the urban local bodies as well as the Pollution Control Board and also with the government. How to take care of these items like the surgical mask and empty bottles of your hand sanitizers and solid tissue papers, and additionally you can have PPE equipments. So that you would have come across these are of the medical waste you could expect from the medical facilities. Okay, these are the sample vials from testing facilities, and these are either from quarantine facilities or medical facilities. These are also from hospitals, and these are day-to-day operations. And this is from your PPE equipments. Okay. So you may have a boot and pants and aprons and full sleeve shirts and hand gloves and face mask, and also like the safety goggles. So these are some of the items that is being mentioned right now. Doctors and also the people, those who are closely associated with the patients, they should also go with the PPE essential equipments. So this also come along with the hospital waste. So how to get rid of or how to take care of these situations is a typical task. Okay? Yeah. So these are some of the photographs, and where how the medical this is from a particular hospital, how the quantity is being taken care, and how it is being taken into a common facility, and how it is being stored, and how it is being handled by the individual the healthcare facility people, okay, with lot of healthcare equipments. Okay, yeah. So now the hospitals are important source of pollutants. That is something is important. Hospitals are
Hello.
typically yes, ma'am. Ma'am.
Sir, your screen is not visible, sir.
Oh, 1 second. Okay, is it for all? It is only for few people.
Sir, actually, it is very clear. I think. I think.
Connectivity.
Yes.
Yeah.
You proceed, sir.
Yeah. So
Dear
this.
participant, you pin the presentation. You pin the presentation.
Yeah, this is nowadays this Google Meet is very nice because its connectivity is. If it is have a connectivity, then probably you could able to. But others can view, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yeah. So these are the important sources of pollutants. The hospitals are right now the important sources of pollutants resulted from diagnostic, laboratory, and research activities, as well as the medical excretion by patients, and which may contain a lot of drugs, metabolites, chemical, and residue of pharmaceuticals, radioactive markers, and iodinated contrast media. So these are when we have started initially with infectious material, now you could be able to see different sources of pollutants, okay? Like drugs, metabolites, and chemical, and the residues and pharmaceuticals, radioactive markers, and iodinated contrast media. So these are some of the possible pollutants may also get into along with these infected or the day-to-day activities of the hospital life. Yeah, and if you go with the generation detail of this hospital waste, and probably in the hospital, 75% of the waste is produced from the hospitals are general healthcare waste. You need not worry about much, but 25% are highly infectious, highly hazardous material. That is something is important. So 75 is one factor, and 25 is another factor. Then I have to handle in different way. 75, this is very easy to handle because it's non-infectious. 25% is highly infectious. Then I have to take care of with a systematic way of procedures. Imagine now small portions of the infectious material is being mixed with the regular stream of the hospital waste. The entire volume you have to take it as infectious material. That's a typical sense. Now it is being identified. That's something is important. Okay? That is this very huge task. A small quantity of infectious material is being mixed with non-infectious material. The total or entire quantity you have to take it as infectious material. Then you have to follow certain procedures. Okay? Yeah. So improper disposal of infectious hospital waste and wastewater could cause serious health risk to the public and the environment. That's also has been mentioned. And the discharge of hospital waste and wastewater, especially those without appropriate treatment, would expose the public in danger of infection. That is something which has been important. So that's what now the government it is working in an elaborate sense, like how to minimize these infections, if at all anything on, because that's what now CPCB has given a lot of good guidelines to take care of your waste as well as wastewater treatment. Let me come back later. So this is a huge task is now management of hospital waste as well as the treatment of hospital wastewater. This is a immediate task with the COVID-19 viral infections aspect. Okay, so this is what I pose you right now. Two challenges. Either in civil engineering point of view or normal engineering point of view, or you can have a lot of good options to detect these viruses. That's what I told you. Detection technologies. Somebody may propose very faster detection technologies virus. Probably they may get into a lot of good prices, something like that. So disinfection of hospital wastewater is one challenge, and disinfection of hospital waste is another challenge. And probably I'll cover these two, what it is been recommended technologies, how we can possible to go ahead with for the minimization of these infections. Okay, yeah. Okay, disinfection of hospital wastewater. That's the immediate task right now. Every 100-bedded hospitals or more, they have a common treatment plant. So without treatment, they cannot let out the wastewater out of the system. So every hospital might have a lot of treatment technologies. Okay, and initially either maybe with biological treatment coupled with some sort of disinfection technologies. Now it is being given mandatory. Okay, because your final objective is to kill all your pathogens. That is something is important. So these are the common used strategies or technologies for hospital wastewater disinfection. They can apply a liquid chlorine, or they'll use chlorine dioxide and sodium hypochlorite and ozone, and also UV disinfection or UV irradiation. So these are the 5 technologies. It is being used extensively in water treatment, because a pathogen, whether it is on wastewater or water, doesn't matter. Anyway, I have to kill the microorganisms, but these in disinfection strategies and technologies is completely being exposed in water treatment. Okay? Liquid chlorine dioxide, and sodium hypochlorite, ozone disinfection, and UV disinfection activities is being explored widely in water treatment. Now we have to look into, because of this pandemic situation, we have to look into the strategies with the wastewater as well. Okay, let me brief what are the advantages, how it is possible to kill or dormant your virus. Okay, number one. So these are the typical treatment technologies. I'm not going to detail about, but all the treatment technologies or the hospital wastewater, it is being treated with biological treatment system. That is very simple. Okay, because it may contain solids, it may also contain organic matter, and any, say example, biological treatment systems can able to bring down your BOD level to 30 milligram per liter, and they may do some sort of disinfection activity as a tertiary treatment. So now the question mark here is, whatever you apply as disinfection, whether it is able to kill or dormant your virus, and thereby you can minimize your secondary infection. That's a question mark. Okay, that immediate task is about quantification. How much amount of the disinfectant I have to add? That is also is not a matter, because unless otherwise you are not familiar with quantification or concentration, it is somewhat difficult to project how much amount of the disinfectant to be added. That is also one typical. And whether the applied load, whether applied disinfectant can able to kill all your pathogens or not. So these are some of the unanswered questions until now, and people have started working on these disinfection strategies also in hospital wastewater. So remember here, you have a biological treatment system, could able to remove the solids, but some extent you could able to kill all your pathogens by simple disinfection technologies. Okay? This is one option. Or other options, you can go for other treatment technologies, advanced like biological treatment technologies. This is moving bed bioreactor, where you could able to remove the solids subsequently with the media filtration, as well as activated carbon filtration, and finally with some sort of disinfection strategies. Definitely could able to dormant or arrest the secondary virus infections. So these are some of the. So now the typical situation is, all the hospitals may have a treatment plant. There is no point. There is no question of that. Everybody may do a treatment of hospital wastewater, but the final task is right now only here how to kill or how to remove or get rid of your pathogens, disease causing microorganisms, especially this COVID-19. Okay, that's what I have already given to you. Some task here. That is number one is identification of these virus. Okay, can I use the same PCR technology to detect these virus in the wastewater? That is number one. Number two is about survival rate, how long it will be there in the system. Third one is about how to estimate the total quantity, how much is in terms of, that is a typical task. And what is the disinfectant load I have to apply, thereby I can kill the microorganisms or the pathogens. That is also a typical task. So that's people are already started on. I could see a lot of papers in developed nations, and people are also reporting right now what could be the possible dose of these disinfection strategies. Okay, yeah. Let me come back. Different disinfection strategies. Number one is chlorine disinfection. Probably would have come across. Chlorine is a very strong oxidizer. Chlorine is a kind of strong oxidizer, and which is one of the most early used disinfection methods in disinfecting hospital wastewater. So chlorine is being used. Okay, typically they may use a chlorine dose of 30 to 50 milligram per liter in the case of or after primary treatment, and 15 to 25 milligram per liter after secondary treatment. So imagine now I have to go for a disinfection strategy, dual in sense. That means this after primary and after secondary also. That's what now people are working on, double disinfecting technologies, where I can able to kill or target the particular virus or what. Okay, yeah. And another thing is about how to take care of the future contamination. That is also another important aspect. Say example, what is the load, what is the concentration I have to add to take care of this microbial destruction. That is one task. And normally in the wastewater or water, and this the dosage is being determined based on how much amount of residual chlorine to be maintained in the effluent or treated water, something like. Okay, so how much amount of the residual chlorine to be maintained, thereby it could take care of your future contamination. But here now it is on black mark, or sometimes very difficult to identify what is the residual chlorine load or residual chlorine concentration to be maintained, thereby your secondary like infections could be minimum. So these people are started working on these aspects as well. And mechanism is very simple. That's what the mechanisms. If you add chlorine into the water, it may have hypochlorous acid, and hypochlorous acid again hypochlorite ions, and which may have a lot of disinfection capability, which will kill or damage your cell wall, especially in the case of bacteria. It will also sometimes collapse the protein, and thereby the virus also sometimes die or sometimes it will dormant. Okay? This is number one. The second one is about chlorine dioxide. Chlorine dioxide is again a efficient disinfectant, and with a lot of oxidation capability. And if you compare the solubility of chlorine dioxide with chlorine, and the chlorine dioxide is 5 times compared to chlorine. So higher solubility, and oxidation capacity is also, it is almost 2.63 times of chlorine. So now you could understand better with chlorine dioxide instead of chlorine. And nowadays hospitals are being recommended with chlorine dioxide to treat hospital wastewater. And if you apply chlorine dioxide into the wastewater, and the immediate mechanism or the immediate effect is denature the enzyme as well as protein. So if you could able to denature the protein, obviously this virus may not survive. And this chlorine dioxide destroys the anabolic pathway of protein also. That's what I told you. Please remember, virus is a crystal like a protein, and you could able to damage the protein probably or denature your enzyme as well as protein, and thereby it will kill all your these pathogenic activity, kill the microorganisms including bacteria, viral, fungi, and also spores. Okay. And apart from this disinfection activity, this chlorine dioxide has the ability of decolorizing, deodorizing, oxidation, and increasing the oxygen content in the wastewater. This also is one advantage it's been recommended, because it may also have a strong oxidation ability. It also have a ability to compared to chlorine. Okay. And one drawback of this chlorine dioxide is because of its chemical structure, the chlorine is inconvenient to be stored or transported. And other advantages, like you have a lower cost as well as this easy preparation. Okay. This is about chlorine is very difficult to store compared to chlorine dioxide, and the advantage of chlorine is lower cost as well as the preparation. So now people have started using on chlorine dioxide also as disinfecting agents in hospital wastewater, especially hospital wastewater. Okay? Yeah. So this is what the mechanism I already mentioned to you. If I apply chlorine dioxide, any disinfectant into a wastewater or onto a pathogen. Okay. So what will happen here? The compounds within the cells and on the surface of the cell membrane that contain oxidizable material react with chlorine dioxide, causing cell metabolisms to be disturbed. Okay, that is something that's important. This is the phasic phenomena, and with that, now people are already targeted with how to get rid of this COVID-19 virus in wastewater. If it could able to damage the surface cell membrane, of a particular virus or microorganisms contained their oxidizable material react with their chlorine dioxide, cause cell metabolisms to be disturbed, and also this chlorine dioxide reacts directly with disulfide bonds in the amino acids and the RNA in the cell, thereby there could be a possibilities of denatured protein. And if it is denatured protein, and this is either in a dormant stage, or there could be a possible very minimum effects on secondary infections. Yeah. Third one is about sodium hypochlorite. Probably you would have come across very elaborately. And now people, you would have heard about the word criminosine. So where in newspapers or in televisions, and it has been given importance on wherever you go. And people have told about disinfection agents, chlorine dioxide or criminosine. Okay, so sodium hypochlorite is again a disinfectant, and could be prepared using standard sodium hypochlorite generator, and which you could significantly reduce your cost. And the available chlorine in sodium hypochlorite is about 5 to 20%. So 5 to 20%. Okay? Yeah. And compared to other chlorine containing disinfectants, the sodium hypochlorite is featured with relatively lower toxicity. That is one advantage. And you need to have a simpler equipment to produce, and more stable operation, and easy to control, and lower operation and preparation cost, and which makes this disinfection method more feasible in a small scale hospital. Probably would have come across. I'll show you some of the photographs and where they do a disinfectant tunnel. I don't know how many of you come across these sort of disinfectant tunnels. Okay, the government of Tamil Nadu, they initiated disinfection tunnels is immediately after the COVID infections. I don't know whether you noticed in the public meeting areas like hospitals and somewhere in the markets near to the bus stands, they have created these sort of disinfectant tunnels. Okay, if you could be able to expose this disinfection, and probably the disease-causing organisms might be exposed with this disinfectant and get rid of, or completely been eliminated. So disinfectant tunnels, and you would also seen these are of disinfections of public places in smart cities also you would have seen. Okay? And very frequent disinfection strategies in public areas, thereby you could able to reduce these infections. Because I don't know how many of you noticed, like the survival rate of these virus in the atmosphere, it is or in the air, it is only 3 hours. Okay, and sometimes this temperature also plays a major role because it dries off, and obviously there could be a possibilities of dormant stage. Okay, or you can go for some sort of like disinfection of public places like this. Okay, using these solutions. And the fourth option is ozone. And it is also been extensively tried in water, and now people are targeted with the wastewater treatment as well. Ozone, and the ozone treatment, and the production is very easy, and on-site application is also very easy, and this ozone is highly unstable, and the residual concentration also sometimes it will go off very faster. That is some of the advantages. Okay? The molecule structure of ozone is unstable, and which implies that strong oxidative atomic oxygen produced by the decomposition of ozone molecule would quickly decompose the organisms such as bacteria and the virus and water. So O3 would have come across ozone, and on-site production is very easy. And ozone is not a stable one, highly unstable, and it may also migrates into oxygen as well as nascent oxygen, and that nascent oxygen may have a lot of strong oxidative power, and which may completely destroy all your pathogens and also microorganisms. This also people have started using on. And the fourth option could be like the ultraviolet radiation, ultraviolet rays. That UV rays refers to the electromagnetic wave with the wavelength of 200 nanometer to 400 nanometer. And this UV range could be divided into 4 different wave bands: UVA, and ultraviolet B, ultraviolet C, and vacuum ultraviolet in the range of 300 nanometer to 400 nanometer in the case of UVA radiation, 280 nanometer to 350 nanometer in the case of UVB, and 200 nanometer to 280 nanometer in the case of UVC, and 100 nanometers to 200 nanometers in the case of vacuum ultraviolet, these wavelength. Okay, and the last one, that is vacuum ultraviolet like wavelength, that is 100 nanometer to 200 nanometer, and could not be used in disinfection because it is absorbed by wastewater. So other three ranges, and it is possible to kill all the microorganisms or pathogens. Okay, yeah. So in a typical wavelength range of 200 nanometer to 300 nanometer, 200 nanometer to 300 nanometer could damage the cell structure, both the RNA as well as DNA of the bacteria, virus, and other microorganisms. Thereby, it will inhibit the protein synthesis. And generally, it is believed that the wavelength of 253.7 nanometer, that something is important. 253.7 nanometer is optimal for ultraviolet disinfection. That is also been given importance. Okay, yeah. So now we have different strategies. Okay, that's what I told you. So my concern is only on the hospital wastewater. Whatever we have discussed so far is like started with chlorine, liquid chlorine, and second one is about chlorine dioxide, and it is again third one is about sodium hypochlorite, and we have also discussed like ozone and also UV. So these are the 5 different strategies to be followed. But in the case of hospital, to implement immediately, that you have to consider these are the factors. Number one, not all the hospitals are same. You have a small scale hospitals as well as larger scale hospital, and how you are going to spend the money, the investment is about low or high, and technologies are easy or complex. That is also plays a major role. And other conditions, what are the other conditions you are expecting to follow? Removal of spore, or the methodology is closely influenced by your pH alterations. Okay, and based on that, you have to select a better treatment strategies. That's what now people have started using on chlorine, either chlorine or chlorine dioxide, or sodium hypochlorite. These three. Okay, these three. Some drawbacks I've already mentioned to you. Not drawbacks, the challenges, because this detection is a challenge, and how much amount of the quantity in terms of dose is also again a challenge to calculate. The third one is about what is the residual chlorine level you are going to maintain to take care of your future contamination. These are the 3 challenges, and if you could able to answer these 3 challenges thereby, and attempting with your the hospital wastewater is very, very easy. So that's what now the national policy level they are working on elaborately on disinfection strategies with hospital wastewater. This is one concern. Okay, yeah. Second one is about hospital waste. That's what I told you. Hospital waste. Okay, wastewater, and anyway I could able to manage because it is coming from a wastewater treatment plant. But in the case of hospital waste, and the composition I have already mentioned to you, and 85% is non-infectious. 85% of the generation is non-infectious, and 10% is about highly infectious, and the 5% is about chemical as well as radioactive. Okay, so the typical task with the hospitals right now is only 15% of highly infectious and also hazardous waste. If could able to devise some mechanism or devise some sort of a treatment methodologies to take care of this 15%, thereby it is possible to minimize infections through this biomedical waste as well. Okay, so these are the technologies it's already been recommended for a general healthcare disposal facility or treatment facility. Let me concentrate on these 3: incineration, chemical disinfection, as well as the physical disinfection. Okay, remember here it is from solid biomedical waste from a particular facility, either from a hospital or from a testing facility or from a quarantine facility. So now we have only 15% is highly infectious, and how to take care, how to transport, how to handle, how to dispose in a common municipal or common biomedical waste facility. That is also a typical task right now. Okay, incineration, chemical disinfection, and physical disinfection as well. Okay, yeah. And these are the incineration is very simple. That's what now it has been climbed on. If you could able to dispose in an elevated temperature in the incinerator, it's about 800 degrees Celsius plus. That is something is important. The temperature of the incinerator is around 800 degrees Celsius plus. 800 degrees Celsius plus, and this elevated temperature, high temperature, and could not only kill all your microorganisms, but also incinerate and burn most of the organic matter and transform them into an inorganic dust. So that's what some of the things is. It's an energy intensive process, but advantage is about you could able to get almost 90% of your volume reduction. That is number one, and complete elimination of your microbial population. That is also one thing. And you could also burn or convert the organic matters into an inorganic final, something like a ash or residue. So these are the advantages of incineration activity. Okay. These are the three different technologies is being recommended right now. Number one, either you can go for a pyrolysis vaporization incinerator, or you can plan, or you can have a rotary incinerator. Or third one, right now people are now working with plasma incineration technologies. Okay. These three. Okay. So you can, only thing is about you have to expose with temperature, but how to go ahead? Probably you would have come across the time, temperature, and turbulence are very important in the case of incineration activity. Okay, what is the exposure time? That's something is important. Time. Second one is about your turbulence. How you are going to mix your biomedical waste in the incinerator. Turbulence. And third one is about your temperature. Temperature is about 800 to, and some of the plasma technologies may go up to 1800 degrees Celsius. Okay. So pyrolysis is one technology. Second one is about rotary kiln incinerators, again technology, and third one is about plasma incinerator technology. Okay. So the main task here is about this small scale hospitals. They may not have any incinerator activities by themselves. That is one aspect. Okay. Not all the hospitals have a incinerator facilities inside their premises. So normally they may depend on common biomedical waste disposal facility. So I think each and every district may have a common biomedical waste management facility that is owned by a particular operator. These operator will collect or take care of the individual generation of biomedical waste from individual hospitals. They do a systematic way of collection, transport, and take it to a common biomedical waste facility. And they do these sort of incineration technologies. Okay, probably you would have come across in Tirunelveli and even Trichy. We have Tanjavur, some sort of a common biomedical waste management facilities with these sort of technologies. Okay, yeah. So pyrolysis is one important destruction technology, pyrolysis vaporization technology, where the temperature is you have a pyrolytic chamber, and the waste, the biomedical waste, is thermally decomposed through an oxygen deficient, in the absence of oxygen deficient, and medium temperature combustion process. The temperature ranges is 800 to 900 degrees Celsius. That is number one. So producing your solid gas, solid ash, as well as the gases. That is the first part. So we have two different phases. Phase number one, the temperature ranges 800 to 900 degrees Celsius. You convert all your biomedical waste into a solid ash and your gases. And the pyrolytical chamber includes a fuel burner, but you have to supplement the fuel used to start the incineration activity. And the waste is loaded into a suitable waste bag or container. And the gases produced in this way are burnt at an elevated temperature of 900 to 1200 degrees Celsius. The first one is the combustion process, convert the solid material into gases. And second one is about you expose these gases into elevated temperature range of 900 to 1200 degrees Celsius in the post-combustion chamber, and you just completely burn or destruct the gases, and you may get final gas which may have very minimum negative environmental impacts. So you just remember the temperature. In the normal pyrolytical chamber, it is 800 to 900 degrees Celsius. In the post-combustion chamber, where the temperature ranges is 900 to 1200 degrees Celsius. Okay. This is the typical pyrolytic vaporization incinerator. It is also being designed in a smaller scale to bigger scale also. So that's what I told you. Number one, you have a pyrolytic chamber where the temperature range is 800 degrees Celsius. And the second one is about your post-combustion chamber where the temperature range is 1400 to 1600 degrees Celsius. And you can load the biomedical waste in a systematic manner into a primary chamber where pyrolysis action may take place. And second, it will come again, the hot gases will come to your post-combustion chamber and destruct all your hot gases, and finally you may get the pyrolysis gas, which may be free from your environmental pollutants. And the ash also finally is on completely inert. You may not be completely worried about your future contamination as well. Okay? Yeah. And some modifications in the previous paralytic chamber. You have a rotary kiln. Rotary kiln. The kiln normally rotates 2 to 5 times per minute to improve upon your mixing. And this also is something like a slightly inclined, almost is 3 to 5% of your slope. 5% of your slope. And the temperature range inside the rotary kiln is about 1200 degree or more, 1200 degrees Celsius or more. And thereby all your gaseous organic compounds is completely been destructed, and it is about your primary. And you could able to see like slightly slope is about 3% slightly slope, and temperature range is 800 degrees Celsius to 1200 degrees Celsius. And the secondary combustion chamber is almost 1000 to 2500 degrees Celsius. Okay. And here also you may get a final ash. It's completely on inert, powder-like inert material, which may not have any for future or further infections. Yeah. And recently, talking on plasma technologies, you would have come across plasma technologies, and they may use inert gases like argon and larger torches. Typically nitrogen, and the electrodes is normally vary from copper and also tungsten, and sometimes with alloys as well, zirconium along with various types of alloys also. The temperature you could able to see here, and you could able to generate plasma created by, and the temperature ranges is almost 2000 to 14,000 degrees Celsius. So that's something important. 2000 to 14,000 degrees Celsius. In that particular range, the plasma range, the waste is completely being heated, melted, and finally it is being vaporized. And because of this extreme temperature condition, the molecular dissociation occur by breaking apart smaller molecular bonds, and the resulting elements components are gaseous phases. You may get a synergic gas, synthesis gas, probably would have come across, and which contains hydrogen, carbon monoxide, and sometimes a small amount of carbon dioxide also, referred as plasma released because of these infections, COVID-19 infections, and this recommending for plasma incineration. One go have elevated temperature of almost 2000 to 14,000 degrees Celsius, get rid of all the biomedical waste and make it an inert, and which is completely free from these disease-causing organisms. That's what it has been mentioned. Okay, you need to have a plasma torches and expose all your biomedical waste. In a short period of time, you could able to completely convert and every fractions of biomedical waste into a inert fractions, highly inert fractions, and which is free from your either toxic or your pathogenic microorganisms. Okay, yeah. And in addition to thermal, there could be possible options to chemical disinfection also. What we are discussing the wastewater, there could be a hospital waste is mixed with chemical disinfectants like sodium hypochlorite, calcium hypochlorite, chlorine dioxide, and which will be kept inside for a long period of time, sufficient period of time. Thereby, the organic substances are completely decomposed, and the infectious materials also completely been killed, and thereby inactivation may happen. Okay, this is by chemical disinfection process. It is also been recommended, but this is a time-consuming process that we have to now mix these disinfectants along with your biomedical waste. Handling is also again a tough task, and you have to keep a sufficient time frame, a sufficient time. And during this process, the organic matters are completely oxidized or decomposed, and the infectious materials also completely been killed and also inactivated. Yeah, and you have some physical disinfection methods also. Now people have also targeted with microwave disinfection. Okay, and if you could able to generate microwaves in the wavelength of 1 to 1000 nanometer with a frequency of almost 3000 megahertz in the particular wavelength and also the frequency, and thus electromagnetic waves have some sort of a power to kill or dormant your viruses as well as pathogens also. So this also now people have started working on microwave disinfection activities as well. Okay, yeah. So this microwave during the process, and it will also like generate huge amount of heat, and these the generated heat or say example these heat can able to like kill or effect on your disease causing microorganisms. That is also one advantage, and we have some certain advantages as well and some drawbacks as well with this like the microwave irradiation process as well. Yeah. And it has also been recommended for a small scale facilities of hospitals. It has also been given importance on high temperature steam disinfection. Probably you would have come across the steam disinfections for like the hospital accessories. Probably would have come across that saturated water vapor with the temperature of higher than 100 degrees Celsius. This temperature can able to kill all your pathogens or microorganisms on a transmission medium. Okay, and again here the selection is also something is important, and this slide sometimes is easy to look in, but you have a typical challenges, because that's what I told you. It depends on your amount of generation. That is a typical task. That is number one. Number one is how much amount of money you are going to spend. Is high investment cost or low investment cost, and is it for pathological waste or with the pharmaceutical waste also, and the technology, whether it is easy to maintain or complex to maintain, and with that we have a clusters. So now based on the amount of waste generated, cost, and the pathogenic destruction and maintenance can able to select. So for this COVID-19 situation, it is also been recommended to go for only thermal disinfection. Either you just go for a pyrolysis vaporization reactor, or you just go for a rotary kiln incinerator, or people have started looking into plasma incineration also. So thereby you can completely get rid of infections, future infections or secondary infections by these biomedical waste. Yeah. So because of these situations in India, National Green Tribunal, you would have come across National Green Tribunal, and they have taken up this issue. Okay, because of biomedical waste management. It's not only hospital, biomedical waste management, like if it is improper or mishandling of these biomedical waste, there could be a possible point of spread over as well. So National Green Tribunal asked Central Pollution Control Board to ensure the compliances of biomedical waste management rules in hospitals as well as like in quarantine facilities. So it is being given importance, and based on this direction, and the Central Pollution Control Board has given some set of guidelines handling, treatment, and disposal of waste generated during treatment, diagnosis, and quarantine of these COVID-19 patients. Probably if time permits, and I request all of you to download that particular document from CPCB site. You can also read out what it has been mentioned. Thereby you can be cautious about that particular COVID-19 infections. Okay? Yeah, let me highlight some important points, what it has been mentioned. So it has been given importance on isolation wards. Probably you would have come across so many isolation or quarantine facilities in Tamil Nadu, and they have also given certain procedures. Okay, and it is also been recommended to keep separate color coded bins, bags, and containers to take care of this proper segregated biomedical waste in these facilities. That is number one. And it is also been mentioned not single layer. It is also been mentioned double layer bags. Using 2 bags should be used for collection of this waste from COVID-19 isolation wards. That is also been given importance, and to ensure adequate strength of your bags as well as leaking proofs. That is number 2. And collect your biomedical waste separately prior to handing over the same to common biomedical waste treatment facility. You have to be very, very cautious on the collected biomedical waste from quarantine facilities, and all collection bins should be labeled with COVID-19. That's something is important. Okay, so if you go with any like the hospital or the quarantine facilities, if it is anything being written on COVID-19, you have to be very cautious. Okay, so dedicated collection bin labeled as COVID-19 to store COVID-19 waste. Okay, and in addition to your labeling, and the containers used for collecting your biomedical waste from COVID-19 facilities are also labeled as COVID-19 waste. So it should be mentioned in the dustbin or the collection container as COVID-19, but it is in a collection like bag, okay, collection bag or collection container which is used for collecting biomedical waste is being written COVID-19 waste. Okay. So if it is anything on COVID-19 waste, and probably that waste handler handle the biomedical waste in a cautious manner. Okay, yeah, and you can also use dedicated trolleys. Okay, so example inside the that's what I told you. You cannot mix regular collection of biomedical waste and also these COVID-19 infections together separately. So if it is anything related to COVID-19 collection of that biomedical waste, we should have a separate trolley, and we should also be labeled with COVID-19 waste. Okay, and inner surfaces of this container is quietly disinfected with 1% of sodium hypochlorite solutions daily. That is also been recommended. And depute dedicated sanitary workers. That something is important separately for biomedical waste as well as general solid waste, so that they may not mix these infectious and also non-infectious material together. That is something is important. You should employ a dedicated team to take care of these COVID-19 situations for separate collection of COVID-19 infectious material and general biomedical waste separately with a separate team of workers. And fecal matter from COVID-19 confirmed patient who is unusable to use toilets and excreta is collected in diaper, that also must be placed in yellow color bag. That is also highly infectious. That is also been given. And the bedpan, what they are going to use, it is also being disinfected, 0.5% of chlorine solution, then rinsed with clean water. And the people associated with these activities been given importance on PPEs, the protection equipments like goggles, face shield, apron, and coveralls, and hazmat suit, and gloves, and into red bags as well. And mask we have to collect separately. And they have also given separate collection procedures and handling procedures for second category. That means is collection centers, sample collection center, and also laboratories. It is also been given importance on how to collect or report that matter. And third one is about the people, those who are operating these quarantine facilities, homes as well as home care facilities, that also they are given certain guidelines. Okay, so if it is anything on the quarantine facility, it is also been given importance to connect urban local bodies very immediate, and even to the government, and whatever it is, the waste generated from our quarantine facilities should be collected in yellow color bags, and the personnel operating quarantine camps and centers should call central biomedical waste treatment facility operator to collect the biomedical waste. You cannot throw out or you cannot give it to urban local body to dispose that particular infectious material, and hand over the infectious bags to the biomedical waste, those waste collectors at doorstep. You cannot throw it out, and you can collect it on the spot and store it, and you can also give it to a waste collector directly at the doorstep. And or you can deposit the biomedical waste in yellow bags at a designated deposition centers established by other local bodies. So these are some of the points you have to remember. And duties and responsibilities of biomedical waste treatment facilities also, that is also being given. So people associated with these common biomedical waste treatment facility will be given protection. That is something is important. And if it is anything on like the vehicles has to be managed very efficiently. Okay, and the waste from a particular the facility, particular quarantine or the hospital facilities has to be taken care with some sort of precautions, because people may not be familiar with the type of waste. So that you have to give a lot of importance on the people, those who are associated in common biomedical waste treatment facilities in an efficient manner. And the vehicles is coming from a hospital should be disinfected like with sodium hypochlorite solutions in a proper sense. Every after your individual trip. That is also it is been given, and disposed immediately at any point of time. Once it is been received in a common facility, you should get rid of immediately. You should like dispose of immediately. And if it is anything on storage for longer period of time, then you have to give information to State Pollution Control Board or to the committees very immediately. If the working facilities is not in a good condition or working condition, then you have to give importance or you have to give information to Pollution Control Board very immediately about the particular collected infectious material from the quarantine facilities. And operator of this facility should also maintain proper record for collection, treatment, and also disposal of this COVID-19 waste. And if it is anything on infections, the people associated with this, and should not involve these people for handling these infections or handling these waste. You just provide adequate leave to such workers by protecting their salary. So these are some of the importance they have given. And it has also been mentioned some of the duties with State Pollution Control Board and also with the committees. And now the pressure on these implementation rules on hospitals as well as quarantine facilities, and these pollution control boards are like given like a task: ensure the proper collection and disposal of biomedical waste as per biomedical waste management rules, and also with standard operating procedures is given by CPCB. If it is anything on violation, then probably SPCB, State Pollution Control Board, can have a like importance to take action against these hospitals as well as the quarantine facilities. That is also been given importance. Yeah, and if any state is not having a common biomedical waste treatment facility, it is also been given importance to go for a deep burial. That is something is important. Deep burial pits. That's what now all biomedical waste, including like infected patients, it is also been recommended to go for some sort of incineration activity. And if incineration facility is not available, and it is also been mentioned, you can go for a deep burial pits. Deep burial pits, which is also comes under yellow category as per standards which is being mentioned in Schedule 2 of Biomedical Waste Management Rules. Okay, these are some of the precautions you have to maintain to implement these guidelines to take care of your biomedical waste handling, transport, and disposal in an effective manner. Yeah, and wastewater, I've already mentioned to you the different management practices to be followed in healthcare facilities as well as isolation wards. Nowadays it has been given importance. You should have a treatment plant, and it is also being monitored with disinfection facilities, and it is also being given importance as for a particular period. You don't use water for recharge, wastewater for recycling activities also. Now it has been given importance. You just give a proper care to treat the wastewater, and you just go for a disposal, not for recycle and also reuse activities. Yeah. So these are some of my conclusions. Like the hospital waste and wastewater must be treated and disinfected properly before discharge. Nowadays, it's very, very difficult. Okay, so imagine now it is being extended to a community spread. It is very difficult to manage. So now it is being given importance on the hospital waste as well as wastewater must be treated and disinfected properly before discharge. That is number one. Number two, the sludges from treatment plants should not be allowed be arbitrarily discharged. That is, you cannot discharge arbitrarily wastewater, and the sludges you cannot use it as an agricultural fertilizer. That is also been given, because another typical task is right now how to handle that particular sludge as well from a treatment plant. That is also another task. And people have also started working on the disinfection activities for that particular sludge as well. Okay, and the use of any infiltration well, bit, or to discharge your wastewater and sludge, or to a discharge into a sanitary protection zone of a drinking water source should also be strictly forbidden. That's what now people have given to a task to all individual hospitals. And if it is anything on septic tank related discharges, you take care very immediately. There could be a possibilities of infections as well. Okay, so you should avoid infiltration wells or pit to discharge your wastewater from these facilities. And in addition to that, government has taken a lot of effort to minimize these infections through wastewater, especially during your COVID-19 pandemic. The hospital should set up a recycling system and assign a specific personnel to take care of your complete management of hospital to prevent your waste loss. That's also is being given. Every hospital is completely being monitored in a quantity wise. How much is the generation, how they are handling it, how they are disposing these infectious waste into a common municipal or common biomedical waste facility. That is also being given importance right now. And the personnel involved in the disposal of disposable medical supplies must be qualified and strengthened in personal protection. That's what now it is being given importance, and those who are associated with these activities must have some sort of knowledge with respect to this viral infection. That is also being given importance. And in addition to that, and people have already started working on new advances as well, new advances for hospital waste and wastewater treatment technologies. Whatever I already mentioned, radiation and disinfection strategies, now it is picking up, and reverse polymerization disinfection technologies, plasma disinfection technology, and thermal gasification technology. And these technologies right now, it is because of higher cost. That is number one. And for a smaller scale, it is feasible. For a larger scale dimension, and this is, at present is not feasible because of the pilot scale and in a huge model or bigger like the operational procedures and also operational costs, and probably in course of time these technologies also will emerge to take care of your hospital waste in an efficient manner. Radiation, those who are really interested, you can also learn radiation disinfection technologies. That is one good option to start with disinfection strategy for infectious material, and reverse polymerization disinfection technologies, and plasma disinfection technology for hospital waste. And fourth one is like the thermal gasification, like a disinfection strategy, disinfection technology. Okay, so these are right now in as small scale implementation features. Okay, and if you could able to elaborate in a pilot scale, probably the pressure on like the infectious material or biomedical waste could be minimized in a short period of time, because these are thermal exposure technologies in an elevated temperature. You need not worry about the infections, but for the final inert material also have completely on inert, physically stable, chemically inert, and it may also have very minimum possibility of secondary infections. Okay, yeah. And now people have already started different disinfection strategies. Definitely the cost of disinfection will come down drastically, probably, we hope. And this, in order to develop more secure and efficient economical disinfection methods, and the local government and actual conditions should be brought into consideration for future studies. So the Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, in a task with IIT Delhi, and people have targeted now different teams. So in national, I think we have 5 different teams are working on with only disinfection strategies with water, wastewater, and also sludges. And probably in due course of time, they'll also come up with some guidelines and standard operating procedures for the management of this hospital waste as well as hospital wastewater. Yeah. So this is my final concluding slide. Okay, because this, unless otherwise public participation, it is very difficult to arrest or contain the virus spread. That's what the government is also saying. Okay, so if it is anything on symptoms, you report to the nearest the facility very immediate, and you also avoid visiting outside, and you can also avoid mass gathering, and you can also equip yourself for self-prevention. That's what the 4 important features I highlighted. Anyway, that probably wash your hands very often, and wear a face mask whenever you go out. Nothing wrong if you are in a 3 or 4 people also, you can wear masks, and avoid contact with your sick people. And that's what people used to say, like social distancing, and avoid always cover your cough or sneeze, whereby you could minimize your the spread of your infections as well. Okay? And it is also being given a tagline. I don't know how many of you read, and it is also being given different taglines. And stay safe, and stay healthy, and stay home. That's what now we are in either in the house or the work from home facilities. Okay, so unless public participation is very, very difficult to contain these sort of virus spreaders. So each and every individual role is very important. Probably like you can also learn better right now with these sort of infections and data's analysis of data's and possible infections. What are the different methodologies? It's not only restricted to only normal engineering, but you have a lot of scopes on mechanical and instrumentation control and chemical engineering, and even for IoT related computer science and also like the communication related engineering aspects. And you have a lot of challenges with this COVID-19 situation. I hope probably you can also take it into a right spirit, learn better things, and do some sort of innovative solutions. With the public participation, definitely we'll get rid of this COVID-19 in a short period of time. So I really thank the Francis Xavier Engineering College administration with the principal and Dr. Kannan and Dr. Angelina. Okay, so for having me here to discuss some of my thoughts related to disinfection strategies with hospital waste and also wastewater. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Dear participants, if you have any questions, you can ask now. You can unmute and you can ask.
Yeah. So I have a lot of collections of these technical like papers, and if you anything want to be interested, you can mail me this mail ID. So thereby I can share some of the details. Okay. Yeah.
Morning, sir. This is Vasudevan, architect from Chennai. I'm an NIT alumni too. It is a great presentation. You covered each and every topic also. My doubt is, suppose for a smaller hospital which is treating this COVID patient, if the septic tank water is the septic tank water is disposed of without any treatment. Hello?
That's what, sir. That's what I have not projected that. But normally, if it is anything on to a septic tank, is associated with the washrooms or what they have suggested is you just apply bleaching powder directly and wash with plenty of water. That is enough for taking care of your infections. That's what they told. So before letting out of your septic tank, you should have some mechanisms to disperse your bleaching powder. That's what they told.
Oh, okay.
I forgot to mention that in this slide. So it is also been given some dose.
Okay,
and wash plenty of water. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank
you so much. Yeah.
Any other questions? Sir, one of the participants have asked that can the virus spread from animals and or non-veg eaters more risk prone to this virus?
No, I'm not very familiar with this microbiology aspects, but right now people are told it's not, because some of the studies I could see from developed nations, and it is not possible to spread over if it is not with studies are very minimum, but I don't know that the hope is very limited, but the results are very, very minimum. Our research level is very, very minimum through your animals and other non-veg eaters. Yes, ma'am. A very long way to go.
And another one question has been asked from Nesamata. Is any harmful gas and residue evolved at the time of incineration?
Evolved from?
Incineration.
Yeah, that's what I told, ma'am. You have a two different separation. That's what I told you. Okay, in normal incineration, there could be a possibilities of all gaseous and also particulate pollutants. But here the temperature ranges, you have primary and also again secondary chamber, where the temperature is around 1200 to 1400 degrees Celsius. So all your gases will be converted everything into a harmless gas. You may not have any problem. Yeah.
Dear participant, any other question?
Hello.
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Actually, I wanted to know whether the treatment which is being given for the wastewater in the hospitals, it has been reused in their campus or it is directly sent to the main sewers?
That's what I told you. Like nowadays, this is small hospital or bigger hospital doesn't matter. All the hospital has to be treated with these infections. That's what that another participant has asked now, because so many hospitals with septic tanks. Now there is a guideline for the septic tank facilities also. Unless otherwise you disinfect your wastewater, you cannot do a public sewer.
Okay. After the treatment, it can be let out, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay, sir. And one more thing is these days we have seen the advertisement regarding the mask, the cotton mask, surgical mask, N95 mask, whatever the mask which is
I
being.
mentioned to you, that is this, the viral, the dots or the particles are less than 100 nanometer in diameter.
Okay, so the cotton mask will not do its work completely then.
That's what people have told. It's like you can manage your social distancing. Thereby you have a protection. That's all. Protection. That's all. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, shall we end the session? So it's a time to give the vote of thanks. Respected Professor Dr. S.T. Ramesh sir and all the participants. An ignited mind is the most powerful weapon on the earth, above the earth, and under the earth. And this is got through education. Education is the most profitable investment for the near future. A very good morning to everyone present here. I, Dr. M. Angelina Thanga Adisha, Professor, Department of Civil Engineering, take a great honor and privilege to deliver the vote of thanks. At first, I would like to thank Lord Almighty for His gracious presence. I would also like to thank our management, our principal, and our head of the department for giving us this opportunity. On behalf of our management and Department of Civil Engineering, and on my own behalf, I extend a very heartfelt thanks to our resource person, Dr. S.T. Ramesh sir, Professor, Civil Engineering, National Institute of Technology, Tiruchi, for his presence and giving us his valuable time on his busy schedule. Thank you very much, sir. The information on coronavirus morphology, structure, and composition, its lifespan was excellent. The lecture on disinfection technology for wastewater and waste from hospital, that is the medical waste from large scale and small scale hospital, was so interesting. And this lecture was an eye opener and good knowledge investment for this pandemic situation. Thank you, sir, for the good ignition. Words are not sufficient to thank the participants for spending their time for a beneficial cause. Thank you one and all. Dear participants, remain online. Now you will get some instruction from our coordinator, Mr. Samuel Prabhaharan, regarding the feedback forms and certificates. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, Principal sir, and Dr. Kannan sir also. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Bye,
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll leave. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Samuel Prabhaharan.
Feedback form is available at the chat box. Please submit your feedback and get your e-certificate within 48 hours. And also I send you the registered mail ID for the feedback form. Please kindly submit your feedback. Thank you.